What's
Good
up?
morning. Good morning, Mark. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Excited to
Good,
see you,
good, good.
Gary.
Thank you very, very much for your time this morning. And thank you, everybody out there on LinkedIn, for joining Engage for another LinkedIn live chat. We're excited to have Mark Tiderman here to talk about his
Woohoo!
as an entrepreneur. Do us a big favor. Please submit your questions, and we'll try to work them in towards the end of the show. So, just a little background and a little bit of history on Mark and I. Actually met him close to 20 years ago, and we
Long time.
at New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. He was an instructor, and I was doing some business development way back then. And I just knew from the very beginning, after engaging with him and working with him, that he was going to do some special things in his life. And that's not only the entrepreneur's journey, but it's also a journey that we all go through in our personal lives, in our career. We all have ups and downs, highs and lows. And so we're going to be talking about that today during this conversation. So with that,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and start the show.
Heck yeah. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me, Gary. Man, it's wild to think that it was 2005. We were working together, or 2006, 2007, I think, like 18 years ago at New Horizons. So it's cool. It's cool to reconnect.
Yeah,
And
it
good to
was
see you,
great
man.
it was funny how the universe works. Sitting at a UC game, watching my son play, and then all of a sudden I hear this familiar voice calling my name, and I'm looking around the stadium, and there he is, Mr. Mark
Oh, yeah.
Tiderman, my good buddy, that I hadn't seen in a while. So it's good to get reconnected with you.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got started as an entrepreneur, Mark.
Okay. So I grew up in Pittsburgh and went to school. My mom ran a trade school for computer networking, computer applications. So during high school and right out of high school, I studied tech. And then I ended up in Mexico City and I met a girl from Cincinnati and, came to see about a girl and never left Cincinnati after that. So girl stole my heart and pretty awesome connection there. And so then the two of us, we went on staff with an organization in Mexico City. So we spent our first 3 years of marriage in Mexico City, learning the world, getting a chance to meet tons of people. Travel was huge, for me, it really opened up horizons of understanding people and connecting. And then after 3 years in Mexico, we were expecting our first child. And that's actually when we came back to Cincinnati, I leaned back on a lot of that tech that I had studied. And I found a job at New Horizons and I was an Excel instructor. And that's when I met your smoothness. And I was like, this guy is as cool as they come. Gary Prater, he's 6 foot, whatever, way above me. And just like hanging out with you at the office, seeing how you brought this uniqueness to a leadership role, Gary, that's really stuck with me. You were human and like really powerful. And so like you brought this realness about you, but you really walked with such authority and you saw people. I remember day one, like you would say hi to me. You would talk to people of all different levels within the organization, but you did it with real sincerity and care. And so it's not that common. So you've got such charisma, but you also have such deep care. So just thanks for your friendship. And but that's when I met you. That's when we met, and we worked together for about a year. And then at the end of that year, I launched off a tech company, which is now streamlined. It's evolved, as is my life, personality, everything. It's been evolving, as a lot of startups do. It's like you grow and you figure out the market and you try to determine, where your skill set lies as an individual and what the world needs. And so started out doing fixing computers, got connected to P&G and a number of these bigger enterprise clients, started doing workflow automation, and really got into the enterprise collaboration side of things. So that was for about 10 years. For Streamlined, we kind of grew to about 7 employees, but always were in that smaller side, right around that $500,000 to $1 million size, and then of revenue annually. And then I ended up shifting into leadership development about about 14 years in, had a really hard challenge, which I'll maybe get into a little bit later, of like, just life gets really hard. And so I had some my dad ended up passing away, and my mom ended up, she ended up coming back, or she had retired, and she'd always been in leadership roles, like at that career school. And then we said, hey, don't just go get another job. I said, let's try out this coaching piece. And so she came, and we kicked off a side, like a little business unit of Streamlined, of just leadership coaching. And she took off, and she was loving it and thriving. And I started to realize that most of the tech problems and projects, when we had struggle, it was always leadership problems in these tech projects that we had. And I also found this, so I really shifted into the leadership side. And so really over the past 5 years, that's what I've been doing full time. So Streamlined is now a full, it's a leadership development company. And so we do workshops, coaching, teaching, speaking, but really trying to activate people to what we call their heroic potential. So that's at the core. That's kind of been my journey. The ups and downs, and many
Fantastic.
more. So I've got 4 kids. I live in Cincinnati, Fairfield, Northern Fairfield, married for 20 years. So just on the journey.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And thank you very, very much for the compliment that you just gave me. I've worked hard at that. Actually, you know what? It kind of does come naturally to me. I just, the more that you give, the more that you receive, type of servant leadership. Just trying to be uncommon and treat people with class, dignity, and respect at all times, at all levels, is just trying to keep it simple and keep that motto the same.
You've got an abundance mindset, which is huge. A lot of people in business have a poverty mindset, which means they're fearful that there's only so much to go around. So I have to block you from getting yours in order to protect what I need or want. But an abundance mindset says there's more than enough. And so I can actually help out my competition. I can help out other people. You look in the tech space, definitely you see this in all the leadership space. It's really sad where people are afraid. And I've been there. I've definitely had seasons of insecurity, big time, where it's like you're not seeing the world through a certain lens, or you're seeing it through this poverty lens. And so I do think that's a major issue with a lot of entrepreneurs, is just the fear of like helping other people out. But you don't have that. The reason why I brought that up, you walk with such an abundance mindset. You know, you're just like, hey, let's help. Everybody can win. Let's raise this tide, and all the boats are going to rise.
Exactly. Together, everyone achieves more. So I just feel that being involved in teams, being involved in sports,
yes,
being involved in organizations, and understanding others helps you understand yourself a lot better. So tell me about a time when you were kind of vulnerable, and tell me, how that has helped you along your journey as an entrepreneur.
Man, well, vulnerability has been, I wish I could say I wanted to be vulnerable from the beginning, and this comes naturally. But the reality is I only really became vulnerable when I realized the other stuff wasn't working. I was like, my goal has always been to like put up this really good front and, make things feel and look successful. But the reality is like, my journey is not that. Like there's definitely, looking back, more success than I could have ever dreamed. But what's really happened to me is that the success has really come from not the way I expected it to come. And so, therefore I got, I love that you brought up vulnerability, because people say that's a big indicator of my leadership style, is like in how I speak and share, because I think that we all are capable of tremendous amounts of heroic potential. Like we really can rise to tremendous heights. However, we're so kind of afraid of looking dumb or looking immature or looking foolish in the short term that I end up, a lot of my journey, we sacrifice the long term. I'm a CrossFit coach now as well. So I coach, at least one class a week, a couple times a week, I'll get in there from the coaching perspective. And it's fascinating how it's the exact same concept, where if you really want to grow, you have to scale down to the mechanics of these movements without any intensity, without very low amounts of intensity. We have a saying, we say mechanics, consistency, then intensity. So, and really it's like, we're going to need to do things that almost seem foolish or seem embarrassingly simple or so. But if you can master those mechanics, then you can do that over time. Then you can add intensity, So if you might be someone trying to do a certain pull-up move, we scale it down to just literally hanging on the bar for a couple of seconds or doing something that doesn't even look like an exercise, but it's actually teaching you the mechanics. And it's really humbling and it's a vulnerable place. And so I feel like that's really where I've tried to step into this. I feel like my eyes have been open to the need to be just real and vulnerable. So I try to bring the thermostat with me wherever I go and try to dial up that vulnerability in the room. I try to lead with some of my failures because I don't know about you, but like I heard this quote before that just said, we're constantly comparing our behind the scenes footage with everybody else's highlight reel. And it's this comparison that really messed me up big time. On my journey, as I look around and I see these other entrepreneurs just killing it, or these other leaders that seem to be having such a big impact and such a tremendous, they just look incredible. And I don't doubt that their success is real, but all I see in my mind, that the things that play over and over again are my failures, and shame really has hijacked a lot of my life. My emotions kind of take over, and then it turns into this gridlock in my heart and mind. And it causes me to focus on the negative. And my mindset has really been, I've had some really big spirals at times. And I've learned a lot of these techniques. It's scary in some ways to realize how much work I've put in of managing this inner game, which I think this is a big priority. I would say, like, I don't know if we're, one of the things I want to talk about today is emotions and the need to, like, I heard one quote that just said, the next 10 years of leadership, the most important leadership skill is emotional awareness, emotional fluency, the ability to be aware of our own emotions. There's this, be aware of our own emotions, to recognize them, regulate our own emotions, and then still choose what's best or still choose the truth. And I just find myself getting triggered. I think in a lot of ways, we're like in the age of the offense. If you look at everywhere we go, social media, or whether it's big offense and it kind of is really out there, or internal offense, our emotions actually they're a good thing. They're telling us that something is off, or a negative emotion is telling us that something is off. And therefore, but it's meant to have, we need to come with curiosity. And that's what I've learned. A lot of times when I don't come with curiosity, I get manipulated and I'm not even aware of it. I'm 42 years old. I just got diagnosed with adult ADHD, which I also think is a really important conversation that needs to be had more of. Is there are many, many adults and entrepreneurs just like myself who are walking around undiagnosed with ADHD, but all the symptoms are really major. And so we often kind of think of ADHD as this, like, oh, just this chaotic person, and they forget a bunch of things, or they can't stay focused. But really, it's this executive function, the front of our brains, the ability to regulate. An emotional fluency, emotional regulation is probably the number one issue with people with ADHD, to be able to have these big spikes in emotions and we're not even aware of it. And then it affects all this sideways behavior. And so it happens at work. If I have a failed project, or if I let's say I forget an important task, and I have a proposal that I need to send, and I just somehow I just didn't do it. It's kind of embarrassing. It's like, it's the basics. You got to be good at these basic things. But when I mess up on these things, I can get so angry at myself. I can get so offended. Or if someone does something else and I don't get the credit. Have you ever been in a team where someone else, you put a lot of work in and you're not getting recognized, and you don't even want the verbal stuff from the front. You just want someone to be like, hey, you put in some good work here. Good job. And a lot of times that's when I would get triggered. And so realizing that when I can walk this out, and like knowing that I need to be more aware, it's like the iceberg visual, is all these emotions happening under the water, but they're having major impacts. So all of this to say, more emotional awareness is what I'm on in my journey. And that quote by Einstein that just says, like, the more I learn about something, the less I realize I know.
Right.
But the less I realize I know, the more I want to learn. That's kind of how my journey is with emotions. I've spent, 20 years of working on my own inner game, and entrepreneurship and leadership kind of has, like, it's a bit of a crucible for that. You get more and more times all the time where these things come up, and it really causes a lot of, there's so many chances for growth, so many chances for sanctification, hence, again, that's why I really focus on vulnerability, because we're all walking around insecure. We're all comparing ourselves. There's this constant state of validation, this need for validation. And I see this a lot. The most successful people that externally are desperately looking for people around them to tell them that they have what it takes.
Right.
Or that they're still, are you getting a lag at all? Are you okay? Okay.
Yeah.
I just got a little warning. I just wanted to make sure. So that insecurity, I think, that's something that's not talked about enough, is that everybody's walking around with these insecurities. And so we have to find ways. That's why validation is so important, knowing who you are in your identity. If my success or my identity as a man is based on how well I do on LinkedIn, or how well I do, even this workshop, right? You and I, our names are put on it, right? And so in a lot of ways, it's like, hey, if we get a bunch of great comments, a bunch of people watching it, a bunch of great stuff, that means, like, that's going to, like, pump that up, right? And think of the opposite. What if a bunch of people start being like, hey, Mark, you're super lame, you should talk less. Hey, whatever, like, you need to look, you look too unprofessional, you look too old, you look whatever it is, all these things. Then I come down, and that creates volatility. That's turbulent. Right. And that's what happens in our emotions, my emotions. And so learning how to stay centered, that, like, no matter what happens, the more I can stay centered in this regardless, the more I can handle, and then I can think clearly and make good decisions. So that vulnerability that's why I lead with vulnerability, because I think these are conversations that aren't being had enough of. And so I think they're critical.
Well, I can definitely attest to what you just talked about, because, over my career, you go through the ups and downs, you go through the challenges, and you are looking for validation. You're looking for somebody to believe in you. And all along, you really have to turn and look inside yourself and truly believe in who you are as an individual, and how you treat people, and know for a fact that what you're doing is right. And it doesn't matter who realizes that or who doesn't realize that, but you have to stay true to yourself. So I appreciate your comments there. What are some of the like a good lesson that you've learned throughout your career as an entrepreneur?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, okay. A big lesson that I've learned, probably the biggest lesson, if you're around me, we joke, my kids make fun of me on this. They tell me I tell this story twice a day to every person that will listen. And it's the story of the bamboo tree, and telling time like the bamboo tree. And yeah, or you can hold off on that for a minute, but I'll tell you in a minute. But the bamboo tree is this, it's our life. We overestimate what can be done in a week or a day. I do. But we underestimate what's possible in a year, or even you stack 6 weeks in a row of consistency. Goes back to that concept of mechanics, consistency, then intensity. And there was a quote that I remember, I forget who shared it, but I think early on in my entrepreneurial career, someone said, what you do every day matters more than what you do every once in a while. And it was pretty haunting, because I'm streaky, and I have these seasons of, like, I can be like huge amounts of energy. And I've learned a lot about that on my own journey. A big part of that, there's a difference between hunters and farmers in leadership and life. And so farmers are going to be people that are consistent day after day, planting, watering, and so you kind of need a long-term consistent energy, where a hunter is going to be big spikes of energy, and you're going to get this big, you kind of bring home, you bring home your prey or you bring home your kill, and essentially you might live off that for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then you kind of recover your energy, and then you have these spikes. And a lot of entrepreneurs, you could actually see in both camps. There's different types. A lot of leaders are in both camps and so you actually need both of them. So the reason for me is that after about 5 years of starting my business, I was really, really depressed. And I actually thought I had this partnership. When I left Mexico City, I thought through some prayer time, I thought God had called me to start this business and to partner with him in it. And so I was convinced that in like 5 years, I was going to see some kind of impact. And I wanted it to be impactful from I was hoping that it would be impactful financially. I was hoping it would be impactful from the perspective of like the people we could impact, the amount of the size of our company, et cetera. And after 5 years, I didn't see any of that visible fruit. There was a lot of other things that were happening, but I wasn't looking for it. Therefore, I wasn't aware of it. And so I ended up, I got really, really depressed. I got suicidal. I got to the point where I got really angry at myself. I was blaming everybody. And because there's got to be someone to blame on this if this is considered a failure, and like I considered myself. And again, I kind of got in some negative patterns, where I allowed some repetitive voices in my head to kind of really repeat some negativity. And so that's the other, little side lesson there is just like what you say to yourself over time is really, really powerful for good or bad. And so therefore, I allowed a lot of these voices to just kind of continue, and I'm a Christian. And so I really value meditation and being able to feel, throughout this season, I just wasn't disciplined in that. I just allowed these voices, these negative thoughts to just kind of really take over. And it got even worse. My dad had died from cancer. So we went through this dark season. The business got really hard. And for certain reasons, finances got really, really tough. And in the entrepreneurship journey, the ups and downs of finances. And I finally got to this really, really dark place. And in my marriage, my wife was incredible. She was faithful. Again, these are the things that like we don't always talk about this hard stuff. So that's why even right now, I just had this thought like, you should be sharing all this stuff across LinkedIn. Your wife's gonna kill you. But my wife's awesome. We've had an incredible marriage, but it's real, and we've had some hard moments, right?
Yes.
My wife was actually Michelle is incredible. If you know her, Michelle, give me a shout out in the comments. She's incredible. She's I always say that, Jesus and Michelle are the two greatest things that's ever happened to me. And so it's like this partnership. And so, but I end up, our marriage is actually we went through this valley, and then we just again, God saw us through it. And we're in the healthiest season of our marriage, healthiest season of our business. We're in this tremendous season right now. And that goes back to the bamboo tree. So I'll ask you, how long does it take to grow a bamboo tree?
I have absolutely no idea. So
something
tells me it takes quite some long time.
Let's just put it this way. It takes a lot longer than I think it should. And it takes, so if you've ever, it's springtime, we're about to start planting gardens. Some people are already out there planting their gardens. So when you buy a pack of seeds, Sorry, I'm going in and out of focus today. Sorry about that. When you buy a pack of seeds, if you flip it over, if you're planting carrots, you flip it over, it'll say 60 days to maturity. And there's different days to maturity on different crops. So if you want the fastest crop, you plant radishes. They're up in like 28 days. 28 days from the time you put the seed in to the time you get that fruit out. And so, days to maturity, another word for that is latency. A delay from the time you expect something to happen or you put something in to the time you get something out. It's the fruit of our labor. It's the market return. We understand these things. We end up putting whatever. So latency is a normal part of life. And really it's this delay. Well, in the bamboo world, it takes 5 years. 5 years from the time you put the seed in the ground to the time it even breaks through the ground.
Oh, goodness.
So that means that for 5 years, it looks like it's broken. it looks like a failure. And so it's all about perspective. When we're looking above ground for the fruit that's not there yet, we're going to feel discouraged. A mentor of mine used to say, expectations are premeditated resentment. And, and so like coming into that is like I had expectations of what I thought I would see at the 5-year point. And so therefore, all I could see was what I was expecting. And therefore, it's what I didn't see. And it caused me to miss so much else. Well, here's the crazy part. After it breaks through the ground, it grows 90 feet tall in 5 weeks.
Okay.
Mind blowing. Nothing grows like that. And here's why. Because for 5 years, it was growing. It was building this incredible root structure underground. All the roots necessary to hold the growth of 90 feet tall. And so there's what seemed like latency, or it seemed like brokenness, was actually preparation. There was this preparation season. And so our lives have followed that to a T. My business has followed that. Fitness follows that. The CrossFit gym. And so the entrepreneurial journey follows that. And so here, if you want to throw that slide up there, Isabella, so in the book, there's this really cool visual in the book Atomic Habits, which is from our leadership program. So you can kind of see here, you see this lower line where it says, or you see the two axes, time is going to the right, results is going up. And so you look at that straight line across there. That's my expectations, what I think should happen in my business, in my marriage, in my life, in my fitness, in my finances, in my emotions. I think I should see a return after day one. I plant the carrot, I should see the carrot day one. All right, I plant the bamboo tree, I should see some kind of fruit quickly. But here's the problem, is there's such a delay in our results. And then you see what's time. Time, this actually follows line. Can you flip, or actually stay here for a second, I'll come back to this. But you see time is a slower, it almost looks like the fruit, that line right above time, it's the results over time are less than what we expect them to be. But then you see this moment where there's this breakthrough. To where the lines cross, it actually breaks through. This is the bamboo tree to a T. That for 5 years, nothing happens, but it's building up and has this huge breakthrough. And this gap in between is called the valley of disappointment. So my encouragement to any leader out there building something, whether you're building a business, whether you're building a team, whether you're building a product, or you're building a family, or you're building yourself, you have to hold the line through that valley of disappointment. That there's a lag between the work you put in and the results that you come out, but that doesn't mean it's broken. It doesn't mean it's not working. Now that there is going to be feedback you're going to get along the way that you're going to need to pivot and change. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you're in it, when you're in the middle of working hard in that long season, again, you're raising kids. You're going to have long seasons of this. You're trying to find product market fit in your business, or you're building this new leadership team. You're launching a new product line. There's a long time from the time that you are putting in the work, and you have to hold that line. So if you flip back one slide for me, Isabella. Okay, so where this comes from is the book Atomic Habits. This comes from the concept of getting 1% better every single day. And so that same line, you'll notice it's the exact same 1% better is that visual of the bamboo tree. All right, you can take that down for me. Thanks. And I'm going to show you. So this book, Atomic Habits is the book that I would recommend for any leader out there that's trying to grow themselves, grow their team, because you have to tell time like that bamboo tree. You have to hold that line through that valley of disappointment. And I don't know where I'm going with that now, but we'll land the plane.
No problem. You just brought up something that somebody a long, long time ago told me that I've learned and has stuck with me. But preparation meets opportunity. And so, the more that you prepare, the more that you build that foundation. And it's funny because even here at Engage, I talked to some of our senior consultants and our developers, and they're like, a lot of people just want to jump into building features and enhancements and all kinds of stuff to a certain application, but they don't spend the time up front really understanding how to build the foundation of the home and taking the time to have that piece be solid. So just like the bamboo tree, you can continue to build upon it
Yes.
and make it sustainable. So preparation meets opportunity is something that you just triggered in my brain.
Yes.
When you
100%.
go back over what you just got done talking about, I can tell you from a personal and professional perspective that I have seen those ups and downs in my career. Like you feel like you should be here, and then you're judging yourself against others that you're working with or that you're meeting. Oh man, I wonder how much that person is making compared to what I'm, and all these other different factors that really don't matter when you really just need to be concentrating on being your own prism of light and being the prism of light for others. So
yeah, and that's what we're each walking our own journey, and there's different timing for each one of us, and there are going to be laws of the land or kind of things that you can learn. That's why hearing about other people's behind the scenes footage is actually really helpful. That's why I think more leaders need to be doing more of this, because it leaves so much up for question that we fill in the blanks with these storybook stories, and then it's incredibly discouraging, and then and it can beat us up, or we can it can puff us up if we're thinking along those. Like, it's easy for when I'm successful to only tell the successful stories, because
right.
it feels better in the short term, and it helps me feel like I'm different than everybody else. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we have the same core, the same needs, and we need each other to keep reminding ourselves to hold that line, because there is so much fruit happening when you're doing the work, when you're putting in the good work, and you're not seeing that that freedom or that fruit. You've got to hold that line. And I would just encourage everybody to, I would challenge you today to be a little bit more real in whatever conversation you're having. Take that. We like to say that in leadership and life, it's not switches on or off. It's not saying, am I vulnerable? Am I not vulnerable? It's dials 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. So wherever you're at now, I would challenge most people could probably be a little bit more. You might not have to go vulnerable, but at least be authentic. Let's move into realness, and and there is a vulnerable piece. There's a really important time for that, especially when you're posting, especially when you're talking about any kind of journey you've been on, or when you're you're talking to someone younger than you in the city. Like we were talking about earlier, is like caring for somebody else, helping them out, being honest about a struggle that you've had, but I would just challenge everybody, wherever you're at, take one step and just take a step of vulnerability or a step of authenticity in how you communicate, and then actually care about the other person, asking questions that helps them. I think we really have the ability to change this, because I've seen this where I've been in a whole room of people desperately, 400 people desperate for validation in the startup space. You see this a lot of times. You walk around and you're like, you've done this, Gary. You've seen this. You go to a conference and you walk in the door and everybody is literally sizing up every other person in the room. Who's worth my time? Which person here should I avoid because they're going to suck my energy? They're going to waste my time. Which person here is going to help me get to that next piece, right? And we walk through this, and in reality, it's like status management in a way in the room.
Right.
And therefore, I actually had a really good friend who's now a friend at one point witnessed me do that exactly at this big conference in Romania. Ryan, if you're out there, I love you. Afterwards, he came up to me and he's like, Mark, that was you. This sounds like this was a good event and everything, but you were totally insecure the past 2 days. Like you were walking around desperate for everybody in that room to tell you, that you're good enough or whatever. And I really rocked me. It was a massive shift in my journey and my identity wrestling and validation. I remember I hopped back on the plane from Romania, and I was like, I wept. I don't cry, and I just like wept for like 7 hours, journaled and wept. It was a life-changing interaction, but it was this realization that so much of my movement was out of desperation for this versus a centered having. And therefore I was like avoiding a lot of people and like not encouraging them. Going back to that thing we were talking about at the beginning, we want to be that rising tide. We all have that core commonality that we can care for each other. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, what's one of the most important unexpected things that has really happened to you on this journey, Mark? I mean, we've been talking about highs and lows, ups and downs, um, validation, not being validated, but something that really kind of, when you look back on your journey, that was unexpected. It could be something fun, could be something
I
that was
got
challenging, but
I got
kind of,
something for you.
kind of let us in on something that's happened to you in that way.
Well, I would say it's the realization of partnerships. And I remember like I started my business and I went to my accountant, or I got introduced to an accountant, and I was talking about, should I do partnership? Should I find a good, co-founder? And he said, this is 20 years ago. And I remember his quote word for word. He said, Mark, the only ship that don't float is a partnership.
Oh,
And I was like, all right, I'll take that one to the bank. I'm like, I'm not going to do any partnerships. I'm going to go my own way. And I could say that was the biggest regret I had in the first 10 years. I wouldn't say that now because I've learned so much, but like now looking back, the power of partnerships, kind of what we're talking about, the power of like me and you aligning and again, helping each other out specifically due to like when it comes to like, my journey, I have got really high highs, but I've also got really, real low lows when it comes to strengths and things. And so that hunter-farmer partnership in these past few years, the coolest thing has happened is when I started this second business with my mom, her and I are this incredible partnership. We have this, not only, I like to joke that my mom needed, couldn't get me to call her back. So she started a business with me. But we love that line because it's actually a little bit true, but it's actually a lot true when it comes to relationship, because who you start your business is, who you're in business with, who you're leading a team with, anything. That's a pillar for friendship, because you just spend time. You have that common mission. But when you have partners and teammates that really can really cover for each other, Jocko Willink in our other book that we use in our leadership talks about cover and move. The need to truly cover for each other so that you can move as one. And when you have those complementary skills, finding teammates like that, that's been a huge awakening over the, unexpected thing for me is the power of that. And so I feel like that's my next kind of decade, my journey. And maybe I'll even say this to all of you. I want to partner with people in small ways and in big ways, and like really finding very fruitful partnerships, almost unlocking partnerships. But it really have to have that abundance mindset. It goes back to that really knowing that I can give to you and I don't have to worry. First off, if you have that abundance mindset and you are validated, even if I give to you and you take from me, I'm still going to be okay. I don't need to be afraid that people are going to take credit, revenue, but I've had these couple of partnerships that have been incredible where it's just like, you just give to the partner and it's like, hey, it's what do you need this month? Hey, we did this big project. It's kind of messy to split it. What does your family need? Being really honest when you talk about money, when you talk about, and those are hard conversations to have. But when you have people that you trust and that complement you in skill set, I think that's a huge unlock, an unexpected unlock that I've had.
Fantastic. What are uh, I have an example of that. Years ago, I worked with a guy that I'm working with right now, Mike Morris at Anchor Point Technology Resources. And we used to give and share and help each other out. I remember taking him and another few folks out because, I was more of a senior level person at that time, and taking them on different meetings with me with different clients and things of that nature. And now we're back working together again, Mark. And the partnership now is even stronger than it was before because we've both grown and we've both been on a different journey. And now we get to complement each other even more because we've had that relationship and maintained that relationship similar to the relationship that you and I have over the years. And it's just been very, very fruitful for him and I to get back together. So that's
so
just
good.
a specific example. And then I have another example of when I was sitting down talking with our director of marketing, Shannon, asking her all different types of questions when I was getting onboarded and really just trying to learn. And one of the things that just stuck in my mind at the end of the conversation, she said, Gary, she was like, what can I do to help you? What can I do for you? Don't be afraid to come to me and ask me anything that you may need some help with as you get acclimated here at Engage. And that just really, and then it wasn't just her, then I heard it from everybody. And I was like, oh, this particular culture that I'm in is real. It's not fake. It's like people are trying to really help each other out. And I thought that was really, really unique, and very, very grateful to be with people here at Engage. So
that's good, Gary. Yeah, Shannon's awesome. I love that she, I love that she set you up right when you got there. And I mean, Simon Sinek actually has this viral quote or a video that's pretty fascinating on this topic of kind of vulnerability and trust, and specifically of what you're talking about of expressing a need. And he compared different groups of, and he people that basically depended on their friends or depended on their coworkers and expressed a need, and people that didn't. And then he said, of all these, you would think that the people that helped or that got help, like if you help me out, I will trust you more, because you helped me out.
Right.
But he said, in reality, it's not wrong. But he said the bigger awakening was that when you ask for help, people trust you more.
Right.
So if you were to help me out, in theory, you would be trusting me more if I come to you with a challenge. And so it's this, we tend to think, okay, I'm going to be there for everybody else so that I can build trust. I'm going to help other people out, which is true, which is exactly where we want to be. But it's also the flip side. Gosh, this focus, it's so funny. I was laughing about this focus earlier. My camera is basically having an ADHD moment today. Okay, everybody. So just my camera is displaying the external, my mind on the outside. So apologize for the back and forth. But this concept of trust. And so when we depend on other people or we express needs, it increases their trust in us. And so I think it's just fascinating. Everything you're talking about here, the more you can, it goes both ways. And these partnerships, literally, I think that's of all of life is a partnership. I think it's a partnership across, it's like we're meant to work together. Again, from my faith background, I think we're meant to work in partnership with God. I think the biggest unlock is realizing that your work is meant to you're meant to thrive. You're meant to be fruitful, but you're not meant to do it alone. You're meant to do this in partnership with the one who created you. You're meant to do it in partnership with the other people around you. I think the other big unlock for us is this generational unlock. You're meant to partner with your parents' generation. You're meant to partner with your kids. I'm now launching multiple businesses with my kids. It's the coolest experience to have businesses in partnership with my mom, in partnership with my kids now. And now, still looking to try to launch something with my sister or my sister-in-laws, or my brother-in-laws, and just trying to, I think that is huge. It's this family team concept. But I would say we draw that circle of family nice and just like Mother Teresa said, we got to draw it wide. We are family and we work together, whether it's blood family or not. It's working together, for humankind.
Oh yeah. So, what are some of the practical steps that our listeners can take today to be able to learn and apply based on your entrepreneurial journey?
I mean, there's a ton of things that we do so we have a coaching program that I have, and we're giving away a free access to our coaching program. It's called Streamline University. So I'd say the best way to do it is just hop in. There's lots of little tools in our work. I try to find the most potent tools that can shift. We love to say mindset, tool set, skill set is when transformation happens. So as a coach, my job is to upgrade your mindset, help you think differently, like the bamboo tree. My job is to upgrade your tool set, give you another tool, give you a tool that's going to be essentially more effective. We have a feedback tool.
Uh-oh.
Hello, you there? All right. We have a feedback tool that's in 5 minutes. You can give a 360, leadership evaluation to yourself. It's called Calm Feedback. Tech companies use it. There's a free download in Streamline University. Again, 5 minutes for you to ask yourself, either for your direct report or your team, what do I need to keep doing? K, what do I need to add? A, what do I need to do less of? What do I need to do more of? KALM, Calm Feedback. That little rhythm is how I give. It's how I give my quarterly reviews. It's how I reflect on myself. It's how we do post evaluation after a project. So that tool is huge. It's the best tool we recommend. And we've got other tools just like that in our toolbox inside Streamline University. So I'm going to share a link here. I think Shannon can share it, or Isabella, but we're giving away just free access to that portal. And it's all of our best tools. We've been doing leadership coaching all around in this kind of a little bit outside the LinkedIn world. And so we're trying to upgrade that and trying to give more tools here. So, and then I know we're close up on time here. So but I want to get, you guys can have access to that. You can reach out to me directly in there. We're always looking to help. So again, we do workshops and coaching with teams, but I would love to hop on a call if there's any way I can help any one of you, even with a short coaching call, or if you want to bring us in for a short little workshop with your team. We've got these workshop blueprints to help kind of get your team to that next level.
All right. Fantastic. We do have one question from a good friend out there. And the question that she's asking is that, do you have any other suggestions on how to manage your own expectations?
Oh, wow.
Right? Because we just were talking about that.
Managing
expectation, and then you have to deal with what's really going on. How do you manage your own expectations, and how do you keep yourself moving in the right direction?
Yeah. So when it comes to expectations, a lot of it is what we visualize something looking like. And so, I think for me, journaling to really get to the heart of the matter, because a lot of times we miss expectations when we're looking for a certain thing in a certain package, in a certain timing. And so really being able to kind of peel back and try to understand, okay, well, why do I want this? Keep asking the question, why? If I want to have this big, for me, if I look back at my story, I wanted my business to look a certain way because I wanted it to be impactful. Well, why? Well, because I think that's what I'm here for. Well, why? Well, okay, because I think I'm supposed to help people right now, okay? So in my mind, what I'm realizing is my expectations are packaged up. If my business is financially successful and looks like this, then I will have fulfilled my calling to help people. And the irony is then I get all bent out of shape and I get sideways for a period of time because I'm not seeing it in that expectation. So I stop helping people. And the irony is if I stopped worrying about the packaging and just got to the heart, I could show up every single day and be like, I'm going to help people today. Right. I'm going to help people today. And therefore being present. And so, that's a lot of what I'm doing right now is kind of, again, there's different parts of certain elements of expectation is really good. Being able to have high standards is really important. You don't want to lower your standards of quality. Also being able to know whose expectations you're working towards, and being able to there's certain people like in the CrossFit gym, the coach, I want my athletes to trust me. I want to trust my coach when I'm there. And so I'm going to try to come under their leadership and be like, hey, what expectations do you have for me in this workout? And they might be telling me to do something that I don't like, or that feels either too redundant, like too simple, or too hard. But if I can stop worrying, I think it goes back to those emotions. And a conversation with my wife last night is sometimes my perceptions are off. And a lot of times my perceptions of a situation can be off. And many times when we're dealing with expectations, if we're triggered or if we're frustrated that something's not happening right, it's going to affect my ability to accurately assess. Goes back to that there's this Evie Pomporis quote. She's this spy, and she's a CIA spy, ex-CIA spy, and she was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and she just talked about, she said, if you are easily offended, you are easily manipulated. And so I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want to have this chaotic, volatile, expectations, and therefore frustration and all this stuff. I need to stay centered in that. And so part of that is just like, again, being around good mentors, being around good people to give me advice and to be able to give me that insight.
Exactly.
Eddie, I don't know if that helps answer your question, but that's a good question.
Very good. Very good. So yeah, we're coming up on some good time frame here.
That's good stuff. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, especially you, Mark, for joining us here on LinkedIn. And I think this is a very, very real, open, honest communication and interview, Mark. So we appreciate you putting yourself out there and again, just being, authentic, as well as inspirational. And it's not just for the entrepreneurs out there. I mean, we all, again, go through highs and lows, ups and downs. We have to overcome challenges and obstacles in life. And, you have to have that growth mindset, that positive mindset to be able to overcome those challenges.
Yes.
And you have to be able to look inside yourself and know who you are and where you want to go and map out the way that you're going to get there. But understand that there's going to be some bumps in the road.
Yes. It's that balance of that positivity, but the realism, because it's going to burn worse than you think it's going to burn. Like goes back, the CrossFit workouts are excellent pictures of, like you get in it, you feel great at the beginning. There's always this valley, the valley of disappointment. I talk about every coaching session. It's like you're hitting that burn where you're like, this is not what I want to feel right now. But you want to feel the feeling 20 minutes after the workout. And, the benefits when you feel the fruit, when you can lift up your kid and you're, many years, decades past what other people are falling apart and you're still strong. That's what you want, And so it's how do you hold on to that in that valley that, and continue to push through that pain.
Yeah, I'm still trying to hold on to that right now, my friend. I can tell you that.
Strong, man.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Trying to stay young.
Everybody come out, and anybody out there, you're all welcome to come do a CrossFit workout. I coach the Friday or the Saturday morning class at CrossFit Fairfield. It's free. Reach out to me. 9 a.m. You're all welcome. You're all invited. Gary will be there, right? Gary, public.
No, I won't be there.
Okay.
I'll go to my own little gym.
Send Gary a comment. Tell him how excited you are to see him at CrossFit Fairfield with Coach Mark.
9 a.m. on Saturday. No, thank you. Mark, where can everybody find you? Where can they connect with
LinkedIn.
you?
Everybody, we're on LinkedIn now, so just reach out. I'd love to make connections. Put a little note in there in the connection, or send me a direct, like after, just somehow that I can connect it, that you were on this, that you got connected through here. But please, I'd love to help in any way I can. But yeah, LinkedIn. And I'm up in Fairfield. I hold office hours pretty much every Wednesday. If you're ever up in the Fairfield area, I'd love to meet you for coffee. So.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Unless there's some more other questions out there that we didn't receive. But I hope this was very, very beneficial to everybody. It was definitely enlightening to me. It's funny how I'm learning from a guy that I felt like I was maybe a mentor for many, many years ago.
You are and will always be a mentor of mine. Yeah.
So this is pretty awesome for me. Mark, congratulations on all of your success. Shannon, Isabella, and the folks here at Engage, thank you for putting this on. And we really appreciate all of the people that joined us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good stuff. See you. Have a great day.